Okay, in today's video, let's take a look at Xander Schauffele's golf swing. Great golf swing, natural, powerful. So we'll take a look here. This is a driver swing. We'll also look at an iron shot, a couple parts of his short game, including some putting. So let's get going here. With the driver, great setup, very natural. One thing you'll see for a lot of players these days, very neutral looking pelvis position. You see the way his belt line is sitting here, very natural, neutral to his spine, which is great for health. And in the old days, they used to teach a lot more of a sort of a bow in the back there, and turned out to not be that great for people's backs. So upright setup, but very natural, solid setup. Mechanics wise, great width to his golf swing and great synchronization. Club out in front of him beautifully there. Club on a great plane. And at the top, that classical modern look with a slightly bowed left wrist or flat square club face, or slightly closed. That just means that on the downswing, you don't have to flip at it so much with your hands to square that club face off. But I think the most amazing part of his golf swing is this downswing. He gets into the ground like a lot of great players for power, but the amount of flexibility and mobility he has through hips, shoulders, and back is amazing. And for power, we know from studying biomechanics and kinematic sequences that if you can get your hips firing hard and out in front and then put the brakes on and slam them right here, that club then whips through and that creates that whipping motion. Well, the more flexible and strong you are, the more open you can get and the more whip you create, and of course clubhead speed. And here's a player who's not all that big but creates tremendous clubhead speed while being perfect balance. That is an amazing position to look at if you think of how much flexibility he has through his hips, back, and shoulders to stick that finish with that kind of speed. Truly, truly amazing to watch. When we take a look at the iron shot here, the approach shot, once again, great setup, perfect balance, perfect angles. When you look at the body positions here at address, not overly flexed, but athletic, able to move, and certainly a player that I believe has spent a bit of time working, understanding his golf swing, if nothing else by the feel and the balance of the club, and also the synchronization of the swing. So you can see as he takes it back, there's a natural rotation of shoulders, core, hips, and arm swing, totally in sync. Looks like he's holding like a beach ball between his arms or something there, and just the club's right out in front of his chest, up to the top. Great width. Great position for the wrist, obviously, keeping that face square, left wrist flat, almost slightly bowed, right elbow right on the plane, shallows just perfectly, as we've seen in some other videos, into the legs, left arm across the chest, and there's that clear out move we saw with the driver, same move with the iron, and the club exactly on plane coming down. And it looks easy. I mean, the amount of side bend and crunch and movement he has, it just looks effortless for him to get through there. Like it's just nothing to it. Incredible balance, incredible freedom through the hip joints, back, shoulders. And I can only imagine how easy and free it must be to swing like that, and how much fun it would be to be able to move that easily to play this great game. And if there's certainly one thing that really separates the PGA Tour from the other tours that are on the way up to the PGA Tour, it's the short game. You know, pitching and chipping for these players, these sort of 200 in the world at the PGA Tour level, it's hard to describe how good it is. And, you know, swinging that club and having understanding of the plane and the mechanics of what keeps the club on plane. You know, he gets that club out here, brings it right back with the bounce working, feet on the ground, no moving around with the body standing up out of it, handle left, and face still square through there. And the players on tour, they know how to use that bounce. They're able to get that bounce on the ground, right behind the ball, slip it through there with a lot of speed to create all that spin. And you see, like I said a second ago, great footwork, no moving off the ground with the feet, especially that right heel is down. all the way through. And if you're struggling with your chipping or pitching, keep that back heel down and you'll find your contact will improve immediately. Great view here of a 107-yard wedge shot down the hill there. Things you would look for these shots is the club being swung in a shorter position, obviously less hinge, and then where is the swing plane? If we watch that plane very carefully and see, is it planing out? What's happening? So super wide, not as much hinge. Club face and wrist still in perfect position. Bringing it down shallow right along the plane. And similar to the other wedge shots, if you're hitting these wedges, anything that isn't a full shot, you're better off having your feet quieter down here to allow a little more upper body rotation to keep that club on plane. It's just, if you were to have any tendency to come up and come out of your shot here, it's going to happen easier if this back foot is jumping off the ground. So keeping it down allows for a little more rotation. You can see at this point here, his hips are less open than they certainly were with even an iron shot. Of course, way less than a driver, but that would show you his upper body's having a little more rotation, which helps these wedge shots tremendously. And you can see how the upper body turning through then starts to pull the hips through, and that right foot then does come off the ground, but much later than you would see on a regular iron shot. We'll also take a look at a couple of different putting strokes here. Since he is left hand low, using all the modern gear, oversized grip, oversized club head, and just how this stroke works, where having that left hand low, like we've seen in some other videos, allows that handle to really keep moving through impact this way without a large swing of the club head. All stops pretty quick there. Anytime that left hand is leading, or you can see that the shaft of the club is working through more this way than it is this way. I've shown that in a couple other videos where if the club works this way, the pace of the handle and the pace of the club head are closer together, it's much easier to control the club head and keep it square through impact. From this angle, looking at the putting stroke, classic putting lines, perfectly fit putter, shaft going right up the forearms at address, eyes over the ball. Once again, that handle moving through impact without a massive swing of the club head, keeps the face square. Very easy to control pace and direction. Okay, and one last look here at the swing of Xander Schauffele. So for the last look here, just one interesting thing to note would be the angle the club sits at address. And for some players, this would be a higher sitting position for the club than some players. Some players would really have the club more through sort of the belt line down here at address. And I'm guessing that due to his flexibility and mobility, that he did something to try to help control that golf club. And by having the hand slightly higher, it limits the wrist hinge at the top. He also has a little of this miniature Dustin Johnson there with a tiny bit of bow in the wrist. But I think having a little less hinge in his case gives him more stability through the swing and a little more control. Because when you have that much movement and mobility, I think it can be very difficult sometimes to control what's going on. And that's just my guess as a coach, that he found a way to grip the club and setup that gives him a backswing he feels more in control. So when he fires, he feels he knows where that club is more than if he had excessive hinge. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this video with Xander Schauffele. Thanks so much for watching. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing. If you liked the video, hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next one.